The 9 days in Judaism is a period that starts from Rosh Chodesh Av, from the beginning of the month of Av, until Tisha B'Av, which is the date that we as the Jewish people lost both the first and the second Jewish temple in Jerusalem. And Tisha B'Av is also the day where we observe a 25-hour fast, very similar to Yom Kippur. Now, I've already made a video about the 3 weeks, and all the restrictions that I mentioned in that video obviously will also apply in the 9 days. But the leniencies that I mentioned in the previous video about the 3 weeks will not apply in the 9 days. So if you did miss that video, then you can find it with this link somewhere above. But in this video, we are only going to deal with the 9 days. And the whole theme will be that we reduce our joy. And thus we will not get into activities that could bring us to joy. We will also see, while learning these laws of the 9 days, that this is not a very good time for the Jewish people. And thus, we try to avoid things that might put us as the Jewish people at risk. And we will be learning all the laws of the 9 days by using this book, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch by Rabbi Gansfried, together with the notes of the Mishnah Brura, who was the Chovetz Chaim, as well as Igros Moshe, which is from Rabbi Moshe Feinstein Zatzal. And as always, all the books that I do use is in the description below of this video, and I will also pin it in the first pinned comment. It is an excellent series of books, 5 books. Even people that learn a lot still have this as like a quick reference guide. I learn the Shulchan Aruch with the Mishnah Brura, Biur Halacha, and still I have this set, and every now and then we still look up something in this Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, so definitely something I highly recommend. But let's get started with the 9 days, which starts from Rosh Chodesh Av until Tisha B'Av. And it starts off with that we do not engage in construction for joyous purposes, or construction that is merely for the sake of comfort. And the Mishnah Brura adds here, this basically means that we can't get involved in any construction that is not for the purposes of one's basic dwelling. Example of this would be like remodeling your house, renovating, making it look nicer, more modern maybe. And this includes, repainting the house, makes it look fresh, makes it look nice. And all these activities may not be done during the 9 days. Then Rabbi Moshe Feinstein adds here, what happens if one began such activities before the 9 days? Then you should consult with your local Orthodox rabbi, because there is those that permit finishing. Let's say you started painting before the 9 days, and now it's the Rosh Chodesh Av. So then there is those that allow you to finish this painting job that you already started, but with a caveat that you should finish it before the week of Tisha B'Av. Like I mentioned in the previous video of the 3 weeks, there is different levels of mourning. We have the 3 weeks, which starts on the 17th of Tammuz. Then we have the 9 days, which starts on Rosh Chodesh Av. And then we have additional restrictions that starts in the week in which Tisha B'Av falls. And then we have a last layer that very few people know about, which is Zayin B'Av, which is the 7th day of Av. That's actually when the non-Jews entered the sanctuary, and then there is additional stringencies. Now, what happened if you didn't realize it's the 9 days and you already got a non-Jew to come and do some home remodeling, some renovations to make your house look nice, more modern? What should you do in that case? The Kidush Shulchan Aruch says it would be better if you give this non-Jew a little bit more money and tell him for this little bit more money he should start the work after Tisha B'Av. And he adds here, this would be the correct thing to do. But what if this non-Jew tells you, look, I agreed with you in this time. We set the time, we set the place, we set the amount, and I can't move it after Tisha B'Av, fully booked. What should you do then? Then you are permitted to do it in the 9 days. But obviously what we learn from here, that is not the ideal. The next thing that the Kidush Shulchan Aruch says, what happens in these 9 days if you have a court case, a pending court case with a non-Jew? So it's the 9 days of Rosh Chodesh Av, you have a court case, let's say on the 3rd of Av, what should you do? So the Kidush Shulchan Aruch says that you should do everything possible to avoid this court case, delay it, push it off, but to get it outside of the 9 days, preferably after Tisha B'Av, because this is not a good time for the Jewish people. This is a time that the Jewish people do not have mazal. Now, I already made a video about mazal, which I will link for you somewhere above, which you can check out. But basically, it's not a good time for the Jewish people from Rosh Chodesh Av until Tisha B'Av, which we call in Judaism the 9 days. And thus, in this time period, we should avoid any situations where we will be judged, because most likely we will not be judged favorably in these 9 days. He also adds here, the Kidush Shulchan Aruch, that if possible you should avoid the entire month of Av for these court cases, because he's saying that the whole month of Av is not very good for the Jewish people. And again, in that video about mazal, I do speak a little bit about each month has a mazal, has a certain energy, things that are good in those months, things that are not good in those months. So definitely something to look at. And now we're going to move on to things that curtails joy, that reduces our joy. So normally after Rosh Chodesh, we recite Kidush Levana, which means the sanctification of the moon. This is normally done after Shabbos, on Motzei Shabbos, and this is a joyous occasion. It's normally right after we do Kidush Levana, the sanctification of the moon. There's a little bit of dancing, a little bit of singing, and this is because we are happy that we reached a new month, Baruch Hashem, and we said a lot of prayers that the month should be good for us, and it's finally arrived. And this is what Kidush Levana also is. It brings us to a state of joy. Naturally, normally, Kidush Levana will fall within a week. There will be a Shabbos and a Motzei Shabbos, and then you'll recite Kidush Levana. So in the 9 days, you will not recite Kidush Levana, and you will wait for after Tisha B'Av. Okay, now we're moving on to a very popular or well-known restriction of the 9 days, which is my least favorite, is in the 9 days, we don't eat meat or drink wine. Like I said in the previous video, meat and wine is always associated with joyous occasions in Judaism. We have wine at our weddings, and we normally eat a meal with meat after that. We have meat and wine when we have a bris, brit milah, circumcision. which the Torah commands us on the 8th day. And if you haven't seen a circumcision, or Orthodox circumcision in the synagogue, I've made a video about that, which I will link for you above, and you can check that out. And we also have meat and wine on Shabbos. We also have it on our festivals. So meat and wine is associated with joy. And thus in the 9 days when it's not appropriate to have joy, since this is the month in which we lost both the first and the second Jewish temple in Jerusalem, we do not have meat or wine. Now there's also various customs about the meat and wine, which I mentioned in the previous video, which you need to watch to get the full picture of the 3 weeks and the 9 days. But the custom not to eat meat or drink wine from Rosh Chodesh Av until Tisha B'Av is the Ashkenazi custom. Now there is one exception. Obviously, one Shabbos will fall within the 9 days. And on Shabbos, we have meat and wine. So on this Shabbos that falls within the 9 days, you are allowed, Baruch Hashem, to have meat and wine. The rest of the week you eat fish, milk products, but no meat and wine. The Kitzur Shulchan Aruch also points out that chicken is also meat. In Judaism, red meat and chicken is the same thing. By the Torah law, only red meat is considered meat, but the rabbis extended it towards birds as well, kosher birds that you may eat. And thus for us it's practically the same. So why does he point that out? Since in Judaism, red meat and chicken, for example, are basically the same thing. So he says that if there is someone that can't have dairy foods and it's bad for their health, then they may eat chicken, because chicken is only meat d'Rabbanan, by the rabbis, but by the Torah law it's not meat. And then obviously, like we have in most halachot, if someone is obviously dangerously ill and the doctor said that they need red meat, then definitely it is allowed to have red meat in the 9 days. But then the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch also adds here that nevertheless, if it's not difficult for him, he should stop and no longer eat meat from the 7th of Av. And he mentions here the reason is, like I said in the beginning of this video, that is the time that the non-Jews entered the Jewish temple. And when we talk about sick people, we also include in that someone that just gave birth. So a woman that just gave birth or is nursing is considered in Jewish law like a sick person. And it's always best when your wife is pregnant or you yourself is pregnant to consult with your local Orthodox rabbi, because my wife has been pregnant 3 times and there's a lot of leniencies for women that is pregnant. So you'll be surprised. So definitely check with your local Orthodox rabbi. Then the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch moves on and speaks about a mitzvah feast. Again, like we discussed in the previous video, mitzvah feast is a meal that is arranged for commandment from the Torah. Like, for example, Brit Milah, circumcision. The Torah says you shall circumcise your son on the 8th day. A Pidyon Haben, the redemption of the firstborn, also mentioned in the Torah, falls on the 30th day after birth. And then we also have a Siyum, which is a celebration that we have when we finish a section of the Torah. Mainly like a section of the Talmud, like I have at the back, like Brachos, Shabbos, Eruvin, Sukkos, Bava Basra, Bava Metzia, many tractates. Many people say you can also do it if you finish a certain book, like example, even in the Tanakh, and there is a few debates if that is valid, and many people say if you are going to do that, then it should be with commentary, if it's now in Nach, like with a Malbim, with a Radak, with a Ralbag, not just finishing a chapter or a book in the Tanakh, because in Nach there's a book called Ovadia, who was a convert, and it's only one chapter long. So I think it will be a little bit frowned upon if you do a siyum for one chapter, which is the book of Ovadia. But can you have this mitzvah feast in the 9 days? The mitzvah feast is something that is from the Torah, meaning the Torah commanded you to do a bris for your son, and with the bris goes the feast. You have meat and wine, and it must happen on the 8th day, unless the baby is lo leinu sick or something, then it's delayed until the baby is healthy, and then only we do the brit milah, the circumcision. Pidyon haben is after the 30th day, so there's a certain time to do it, the ideal time to do it. So then the Kidush Shulchan Aruch says you should do it, but only the people that is involved, meaning in a circumcision, who's involved? The baby, obviously. And the baby actually does have a bit of wine in the circumcision because of the pain. They normally give sweet wine. And the father, who recites the brachot, he drinks wine. The person performing the circumcision, the moel. I have 2 sons, Azrael and Hillel. I did both their brit milah, meaning I did the circumcision myself. I was assisted by Rabbi Hillel Meisels. He was very much a part of it, so he could also drink the wine. You also have people that you give honors to. The sandak, the person that holds the baby while the circumcision is done, is considered the greatest honor in a circumcision. It's normally given to a rabbi or a father. In my case, for Azrael, the sandak was my personal rabbi, Rabbi Yitzchak Steinberg. And for my second son, for Hillel, the sandak was Ilan Chazen. I also got married at Ilan Chazen's house. He's like my Rebbe. Many people know that Litvaks, we are not very pro Chassidut, and this is a bit of a joke with Ilan that he is my Rebbe. So it's given to someone that is very close to the family, someone that has learned a lot of Torah, and someone that you want to honor. There is also the seat of Eliyahu. He said that Eliyahu comes to every circumcision of every Jewish baby, and someone is honored to bring the baby to the seat of Eliyahu. And then there's also the kvater. The kvater is a person, normally a couple that's married, that wants to have more children, and they are normally given this honor, the kvater, and it's also seen as a segula, a remedy for people to give birth after that. Now, it's better to give it to a couple that doesn't have any kids, but even if they did have kids, you can give it so that they can have more kids. So in my second son's bris milah, Hillel, we didn't arrange the kvater before the time. So the people were there. I know everyone that's at the bris, obviously. So I asked the first couple. This was actually my chavruta, his wife, and he told me she's pregnant. So he's not sure, it can be done if she's pregnant already. So I said, okay, well, I'll skip my chavruta. I went to another couple. They said yes. Then I went to check with my rabbi about what my chavruta said. Great time to learn some extra laws. My rabbi said, yes, it's better to give it to someone that's not pregnant. So then the second couple I gave it to, the husband came to me and said, why did your chavruta not take the honor? So I said, because his wife is pregnant. So he said, we are also in that situation. So then I had to find another couple to give them this quarter. And the reason that in Judaism many people don't know who's pregnant, in the first 3 months, it's not announced by Orthodox Jews, only to immediate family. So me and my chavruta, we are like brothers. So I knew his wife was pregnant, but I didn't know it was an issue. The other guy, we are friends, but it was within the first 3 months. So he holds by the halachot that you don't tell anyone until 3 months, unless it's now direct family. And the reason 3 months is chosen because then it's like visible. You can see the woman's pregnant. It's no longer hidden. So yeah, that's just an interesting story about Bris Milan Quarter that went a little bit south, but we managed, Baruch Hashem. And also in this mitzvah feast, your parents is allowed to eat meat and drink wine, as well as your brothers and your children. So your nuclear family, not extended cousins and great cousins, your immediate family. And in the siyum, it's people that assisted in this mitzvah meal. And they're adding here that this can be also the people that help make this siyum possible. So let's say you are someone that's very wealthy, and you are someone that loves Torah, loves Hashem, and you want to sponsor someone that learns full time, or just learns in general, and you support this person financially, then you can also have meat and wine at this mitzvah feast, because of your funding, you enabled this person to learn and to finish that section of the Torah and make a siyum. So you are definitely a part of it. Many of you on this channel is also a part of my learning. I have now quite a few members that help to support this channel financially, which I'm very grateful for. And this is a monthly contribution. There's also people that send me a super thanks, as well as buy me a coffee. And again, if you are someone that do want to support this channel, there is links in the description below, and I will also pin it in the comments. So thank you all for all your support. Now, all this that we mentioned about this mitzvah feast can be done even up until Erev Tisha B'Av, and that's what we will cover in the next video, is what happens on the day before Tisha B'Av, but only until Chatzot. Chatzot means the middle of the day. After the middle of the day, you can no longer have this mitzvah feast. Now, the Kidush Shulchan Aruch is also adding here that some people have a custom to have a meal before the circumcision. Now, I'm not aware of this custom. Like I said, I had 2 Brit Milahs. I've been at many Brit Milahs before, never seen a meal before the time, but he's saying there is such a custom, and he's saying obviously the meal before the mitzvah, the night before, you cannot have meat and wine, and you can have dairy products like you have in the rest of the 9 days. Now, dairy products, it doesn't mean just dairy products. You can have fish. Fish is not considered meat in Judaism. It's considered parev. Depends on which pan or pots you use, but parev, meaning it's neither molchik nor is it meaty. It's parev, it's neutral. Now, the next question the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch deals with is, like we said, there's going to be a Shabbos within the 9 days. In the Shabbos, you can have meat and wine to your delight. Baruch Hashem. Now, after Shabbos, you're going to make Havdallah, which is a ceremony that we make where we separate between the holiness of Shabbos and Chol, the ordinary, regular day, weekday. And we do this with a cup of wine. And I have the full ceremony of Havdallah, which I will link for you above. I can only use 5 links. So I do have quite a lot of videos on my channel, but I'll try to link that for you above. But basically, now we're in the 9 days. It's no longer Shabbos. It's now Motzei Shabbos, after Shabbos. Normally we do Havdallah with wine. So what do we do in this case? This is the question of the Kidush Shulchan Aruch. So basically he's saying that ideally, if you have a child present, then the child should drink it. Boys under the age of 13 are not obligated to keep the commandments. Girls under the age of 12 are not obligated to keep the commandments. Now, why not just not drink the wine? Because then it's a bracha Havdallah. It's a blessing that you said in vain, which means you said the name of God in vain, which is very bad. So if you have a child present, you should give the child the cup and they should drink at least a revit of this wine, which is a mouthful, which is not little. That would be the ideal situation, and this I've seen done many times. But what if you do not have a child present, you're single, and you're doing it at home, Havdallah? Or you are married, you do have 3 kids, but your oldest son is only 3 years old. Can't do a mouthful. Although I'm sure Azra would love to try. And we also hold by Rov course, by you should drink the majority of the cup, not just the revit. So we have additional chumrah, stringency. So then you drink the wine, even though it is the 9 days. And the reason is that it's a mitzvah to drink wine on Havdallah. And this is also another chumrah. We don't have a lot as a family. I didn't take on a lot of chumras, a lot of stringencies. But for Havdallah, wine is extremely important. And I'm talking real wine, not what people call young wine. In halachot, there's a concept called young wine, which is grapes that's been squeezed, grape juice, that will eventually become wine. This is called young wine. Now, many people today use grape juice for Kidush, for Havdallah, for everything. They don't actually drink real wine because they're saying that they're holding by young wine. Problem with this is that this grape juice that you drink, that you buy in the shops, it will never become wine. You can keep it for a year. It will never ever ferment. It will not become wine. So it's a very tricky leniency to follow, and we do not follow this leniency. And this becomes very difficult when you travel to countries where kosher wine isn't readily available. Then only once, when we were in South Africa, I was visiting my mother. She lives in George, and we couldn't find kosher wine. So I didn't know what to do because I don't hold by this theory of young wine. If it's a grape juice that you buy in a bottle, because it will never become wine. It isn't wine. The kids there. In short. So I phoned a rabbi in South Africa and asked him, what should I do? So first he said you can have grape juice. So I thought, I don't hold by grape juice. I don't consider this young wine. This is also how my rabbi holds. So he says, okay, so then go buy grapes, squeeze the grapes, then you'll get grape juice, but it won't be against your theory that it will never become wine, because if you squeeze grapes, eventually it will become wine. It will ferment. So I was about to do that. I told my wife, look, I've never had not wine for Kiddush or Havdallah. So let's try a few more bottle stores. We went to 5 in total, and at the very last one, standing there, Hashem, where am I going to get this thing now? I got to get grapes, squeeze it. My planning is always very tight with time. So, it's going to be tricky. I need just one bottle of kosher wine. And South Africa do have kosher wines closer to the Jewish centers like Cape Town, Johannesburg. You can find it, everywhere. And as I'm looking there, a lady comes, and I'm dressed, like this always, black and white, tzitzit, kippah. And she said, oh, are you Jewish? I said, yes, Baruch Hashem, I'm Jewish. She said, and what are you looking for? I said, no, we need like a specific wine that only we can drink. We can't drink any wine, because I'm standing in a section that's a lot of wine. South Africa is known that it has good wine. but I need a bottle with a stamp, with a kosher stamp. Other wine is tray for me. I cannot have it. Asur, completely forbidden. So then, as I'm saying that, the manager of the place walked behind us, and she said, "Oh, I have those bottles with a mark." I said, "Look, I've checked this entire thing. I went up and down, moved bottles. I cannot find it." She says, "No one buys it." So I took it. I put it at the back of the store. It's not on the shelves. I said, "Okay, so bring me one," because not really believing that she knows actually what that mark looks like. So she brings me one. It's got the BD stamp, the Baidin of South Africa. And I tell her, "Okay, very good. Do you have more of this at the back?" She says, "Yes, get another 3 bottles." I said, "Bring them all." So, Baruch Hashem, so I've actually never did the grape juice, but you can do it if you're in circumstances where you can't find kosher wine. So a little bit of a trick for those that also hold by the Chumrah that grape juice bottled is not young wine. And also, just to a final point, the wine of Havdallah after Shabbos is more important than the wine in Shabbos. So if let's say you don't have wine, only a little bit, what should you do? You should have that wine for Havdallah, not for Kidush. Because you can do Kidush actually on the challah, on the bread as well. Another interesting law. The next thing that the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch deals with is something very practical and essential, and also one of the reasons that you should know the laws of the 9 days before it actually starts. Because on the 9 days, you cannot do laundry, meaning you can't wash your clothing, iron it, and like we already said, you can't buy new clothing. That's what we already said in the video about the 3 weeks. So you need to do all your washing before the 9 days. That is critical. Especially someone with a bigger household, I'm married, 3 kids, you need to get all that washing done and ready before the 9 days starts. And then what many Jews think of is, okay, I didn't do all my washing before the 9 days. Maybe I'll give it to a non-Jew to do it. Because non-Jews are not, don't need to keep the laws of the Torah or of the rabbis. They need only to keep the 7 laws, and if they keep the 7 laws, they have a share in the world to come. So I'll give it to a non-Jew. They'll wash it, laundromat, and bring it to me back mint condition. But this is prohibited. The Ramah is adding here that you can give it before Rosh Chodesh to a non-Jew. Now a Jew can actually do laundry for a non-Jew during the 9 days, because obviously this brings the Jew no joy to do laundry for a non-Jew. But again, during the week in which Tisha B'Av falls, she should be careful to avoid doing this. And the Mishnah Brura is adding here that it is allowed even during the week in which Tisha B'Av falls, but then it must be clear that the clothing, the style of clothing, is clearly that of a non-Jew. Then it is permitted, because we don't want this Jew to do laundry for a non-Jew if this non-Jew wears clothes similar to Jews, because then people are going to think that this Jew is not keeping the laws and is doing laundry in the 9 days. Now, during the 9 days, it is also prohibited to wear freshly laundered garments or new linens, bed sheets. Now, this means that this is clothes or linens that was washed and everything prepared before the 9 days started. Now the 9 days starts, then the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is saying it is prohibited to wear even such clothing. So what do people do practically? Before the 9 days, you go into your closet and all the clothes that you're going to wear, you put them on for a short while, then you put them back. On for a short while, put them back. Because that way they are not fresh off the press, so to say. They've been washed and everything, but you did wear them a little bit, so they're not worn before. So this is how you get out of this dilemma. Now what happens if you forgot? You forgot to do that. So you washed all your clothes before the 9 days, clean, neat, in the cupboard. 9 days start, you didn't wear them before. So can you then wear them? You don't have any other clothes. You can't buy new clothes. That's already prohibited from the 3 weeks. So what do? So then you should consult with your local Orthodox rabbi. I have been in this situation before. Baruch Hashem, you're learning from someone with some practical experience, a lot of mistakes made. And my rabbi said you can wear the clothes then because you don't have anything else to wear. The Kidush Shulchan Aruch also adds that on Shabbos you can wear freshly laundered garments and you can spread new tablecloths and linen for the bed. You can change the hand towels because this is obviously for the honor of Shabbos. On Shabbos, generally, Jews make the house look a lot better, neater. We cover all the tables with white cloth. We wear nicer clothing. We have dedicated Shabbos clothes. I have Shabbos shoes. On Shabbos, for example, I wear long white shirts. In the week, I always only wear shorts. And I also wear a jacket on Shabbos. So generally Jews on Shabbos wear their best clothing, and on Chagim, on festivals, even better clothing. So on Shabbos it is permitted for the honor of Shabbos. So it's not just for your own joy, it is because you are honoring the day of Shabbat. Now what is some of the leniencies that we have, even though we're in the 9 days there isn't a lot of leniencies, but there is leniencies for a woman that is in nidah, that is spiritually unclean. And I'm not going to go into too deep a detail. As soon as you get married, you will go for kala classes for girls. Men will go for khatan classes, where you will learn all these laws in great detail. But basically a woman is allowed to wash her underwear in that time period when she is in nidah and in the days of counting, and that is for various reasons that you will learn in the kala and khatan classes. Another leniency which is very applicable and very helpful, especially in this household or any household that has a lot of young kids. So if you have young kids, infants, this is what the Kidush Shulchan Aruch mentioned, is babies, the Kidush Shulchan Aruch is talking about, then you can wash the diapers because obviously it gets soiled constantly. Now these days most people buy diapers, disposable. So obviously you can put new diapers and throw them away, the disposable ones. And this is the leniency that many people rely on, is the one of Rabbi Moshe Feinstein Zatzal, who says and ruled that clothing of children who constantly soil their clothing with dirt, mud and the like may be washed. And the Mishnah Brura is saying that even when washing is permitted, you shouldn't be doing it in public, or you should avoid doing it in public. Then you're washing inside your house, which most people do, washing machine. Many people in Israel, they still put their clothes outside to dry because it's very hot. We have a washer and dryer combo. That's what I bought my wife. So that solves that problem. But let's say you're still drying your clothing outside in the sun, natural, then you shouldn't be doing that in the 9 days. Even though you are permitted to wash the kids' clothing because of this leniency of Rabbi Moshe Feinstein Zatzal, you should dry it in-house so that it's not so visible for other people. It's called in Judaism Maras Ein. And then the Kidush Shulchan Aruch is adding that during the 9 days we don't make new garments, we don't make new shoes, we don't knit new socks, stockings, none of that, even through the hand of a non-Jew. Now I would say I could have figured that out by myself. I don't need the Kidush Shulchan Aruch to tell me. If I can't buy new clothes in the 3 weeks, or new shoes, or basically new garments of any type, then why would I be allowed to make new clothes, make new shoes? But the Kidush Shulchan Aruch gives us an answer, and he says, except when there is a great need to do so. What could such a great need be? There's a wedding, Baruch Hashem, there's a wedding after Tisha B'Av. You can't get married in the 3 weeks. You've been waiting in anticipation. You went to that Kala classes and that Chatan classes, and you're waiting to get married. But it's the 3 weeks, you can't get married. But after it, you will get married. B'ezrat Hashem. So, you want a jacket, custom made. It's a big day. The Kala obviously wants a wedding dress, custom made, only the best. So then it is permitted for a garment to be made by a non-Jewish craftsman, but not a Jew. This is what the Kidush Shulchan Aruch is saying. But the Ramah and the Mishnah Brura is saying, or ruling, that even a Jew may make a garment that are needed for a wedding, with a lot of conditions. We're not going to go through all of that. That's for deeper learning, and that is why these videos are overview of all the laws, all the basic laws, so that you know what is the 9 days, what can you do, what can't you do. But if you want to go deeper, then you're going to have to go to the actual Shulchan Aruch with the Mishnah Brura, Bir Halacha, and work your way through all the halachot. And then the Kidush Shulchan Aruch is adding here that prior to Rosh Chodesh Av, so within the 3 weeks but not the 9 days, then you can give materials to a Jewish craftsman, and then it is permitted for him to make the garments even after Rosh Chodesh Av, which is a bit of a loophole. But then we have the Bir Halacha, which is the same Chofetz Chaim, but it's the Mishnah Brura. The Chofetz Chaim wrote the Mishnah Brura, but he wrote a more detailed Sefer, which is called the Bir Halacha. And in the Bir Halacha, he cites the Gra, the Vilna Gaon, who writes that even in this case, one should be stringent and not make clothing during the week of Tisha B'Av. Then while we're on the subject of garments, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein is also saying that you can repair garments in the 9 days. And there's also a discussion of whether or not you can make garments from old garments. So you have some old clothing lying around, you want to put it all together and then make for yourself a new garment from old garments. There's a big discussion about that in the 9 days, but many people say it's forbidden to knit or use needles during these 9 days to make clothing. Okay, now what happens? We said you can't buy new clothes, new shoes, you can't make them either. So what happens if you only have leather shoes, and on Tisha B'Av, the 9th day of Av, you can't wear leather shoes? So what should you do then? So then Rabbi Moshe Feinstein says that it is permitted to buy sneakers, for example, that you can wear on Tisha B'Av. You can also buy new tefillin, which is the leather boxes that Jews wear, which is called a ot in Judaism. It's a sign, but you can't buy a talis gadol, the big talis that we wear when we pray. You can't buy that because that is clothing. That's why we put tzitzit on it. Anything that you put tzitzit on is a beged, is considered clothing. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to put tzitzit on it. It's also adding here that generally you can buy the talis katan, the one we wear on our bodies the whole day, but you can only do this if it's not a big purchase for you. I can tell you in my example, if I buy a normal beged with normal strings, then it's pretty cheap. Then it wouldn't be a significant purchase for me. And thus, according to this opinion, I could buy it in the 9 days. But I've got a woolen beged, and I've got tzitzit with techeles, and I have a special way of tying it, which is according to my Rabbi Yitzchak Steinberg. We do Rambam with the gra, which is unusual, and it costs a lot of money. So that is always a significant purchase. So I wouldn't be able to do that with my talis katan. Now the other thing he mentions here is what happens if you go into a jewelry store in the 9 days and you want to get engaged. You're now keeping your engagement for after Tisha B'Av, you're frum. You want to do it afterwards, better. Go into the jewelry store, see, wow, that's exactly what I want. Now, wedding ring in Judaism is pretty plain. Can be no stones, no engraving, just a gold band, basically. Must be worth more than a sheva pruta. Okay, you go in, but you see now one, I don't know why, but you love this one. And it's at a good price. This is the main point. It's at a good price. Now, you can't really buy new items, new things that brings joy in the 9 days. So what do you do now? So you say, okay, you tell the owner of the jewelry store, I'll come after Tisha B'Av, after the 9th of Av. You give him the secular date. That's when I will come. I will get this ring. Please keep it for me. He says, no, the price is going up. After Tisha B'Av, it's significantly more. So then, according to Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, then you can purchase this ring, because if you don't, then you will have a significant financial loss. Here's another good example. So what happens if you're buying furniture, which you shouldn't be buying in the 9 days? But you're not buying just any furniture. You are buying custom-made furniture that a non-Jew will make for you. Now, this is allowed to get a non-Jew to make custom furniture for you during the 9 days, but he's not allowed to deliver it to your house until after Tisha B'Av. And this will be the theme with most things that you do want to buy during the 9 days. During the 9 days, you shouldn't be buying new items, but if you do, it's better that it comes after Tisha B'Av. You can only do it if there will be a substantial financial loss if you were to wait until after Tisha B'Av. This will be the common thread, the iker of this halacha. Then the Kidush Shulchan Aruch goes into a lot of detail with people that are working in the industry of making clothing, garments of various type, weavers basically, but mainly dealing with, setting everything up during this 9 days. Is this allowed? And this is to do mainly with the Hebrew word of setting everything in place, which is called shati, and the foundation stone that was in the Beit HaMikdash, which is called Even Shatia. The woman that used to arrange this weaver, they assumed the stringency, not to do this during the 9 days. And the Kidush Shulchan Aruch is saying that people that have the stringency should continue to do so. Another very interesting law about the 9 days is we don't bath during these 9 days, not even in cold water. And the reason is because when you take a bath in hot water, it's very comforting. You're feeling good. Now, it's very important to point out here that this refers to bathing the entire body, But if you do it bit by bit, then it is most certainly allowed, like washing your face, your arms, your legs. The Mishnah Brura is adding with cold water. And Rabbi Moshe Feinstein is saying that you can be lenient and you can wash yourself on a hot day for the purpose of removing sweat, but not for pleasure. Swimming for pleasure is forbidden, like going to the ocean or a swimming pool. But someone that is sweating a lot and perspiring, smelling nasty, they may take a dip in a swimming pool for a short time only in order to remove the dirt and the sweat. So I remember when I learned this with my rabbi the first time, he said, if you don't take a bath, you're going to stink. People are going to smell you. And this is going to be a chilul Hashem. Someone like me, black and white, kippah, tzitzit, smell bad. It's a chilul Hashem. Chilul Hashem is the worst thing you can do in Judaism. That's desecrating the name of God. So my rabbi said, yes, definitely if you're someone that perspires a lot, you should, take care of that. But this doesn't necessarily mean you need to take a bath in hot water with bubbles. This means you should use the leniency that was already given, that you wash yourself bit by bit. So you wash your arms, maybe, you let the shower go, and then you put your arms in, wash your arms, you wash your head, you wash your body, legs, bit by bit. That way you clean, smell good, and then you don't have a chilul Hashem. Also, deodorant is allowed and highly encouraged all year round, not just in the 9 days. There is some issues with some deodorants for Shabbos laws, so just have a look at that as well, but otherwise highly encouraged all year round. And I think that's a very important point to mention, because the Jewish people are the people of God. We are representing the people of God, especially the religious people that actually keep God's Torah that He gave us. And there's many halachot in the Shulchan Aruch, in Orach Chaim, with the Mishnah Brura, Bir Halacha, that a Jew should look neat and smell neutral or good. But a Jew shouldn't look dirty and smell bad. This is terrible, the chilul Hashem. And this is something that we all should definitely work on. Now, what happens if you're someone that has health issues? Can you then take a bath? And there's many examples that's given by the Kidush Shulchan Aruch. Someone that has just given birth, a pregnant woman, which we said is considered in halacha, like someone that is ill, close to giving birth. Obviously hot water would then provide some comfort. Someone that is, feeling weak. So as you will see with almost any Jewish law that you learn, when you get to sick people or people that do not feel well, then many of these laws is not applicable. And that's also what the Kidush Shulchan Aruch says. Then it is most certainly permitted to take a bath, even in hot water. And then, like we have discussed now in a few occasions in the video about the 3 weeks, as well as in this video about a woman in Nidah, we're not going to go into too much detail, but after the clean days are counted, she goes into a mikveh, which is a ritual bath. Only after that she is then again permitted to her husband, so she can most certainly go into that mikveh, that ritual bath. And also, just to add another point to that, is that before she goes to the mikveh, she washes herself in great detail, and that is also most certainly allowed, because that prepares her to go to the mikveh, which makes her permitted again to her husband. And again, there's a section here that deals with what if the day she would become clean, the evening, is on Tisha B'Av. So again, my rabbi said that whenever I'm giving over these laws, that the laws of marriage that you get taught in your Kala and Khatan classes shouldn't be discussed in a public format like this for tzniut, for modesty reasons. But if you do want to check that out, we are currently in book number 4 of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. We are in Siman 122, and this is discussed at the end of CF 12 with a note at the bottom with a lot of references where you can find further detail if you are someone in that situation. And even then, it is best to discuss this with your local Orthodox rabbi. Then the Shulchan Aruch moves on and says, what if Rosh Chodesh Av falls on Erev Shabbos? Can you then take a bath in hot water, which is something that you do every Erev Shabbos? And then the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch rules that you may take a bath in hot water this time as well. However, there will be another Shabbos, obviously, in the 9 days. This is called Shabbos Chazon, and it is prohibited to bath in hot water, even if you are someone accustomed to do so every Erev Shabbos. So I have this custom, I think most Jews have this custom, to bath themselves in hot water or even a shower before Shabbos. So you come into Shabbos looking your best, neat, best clothing, smelling good, clean. And there's also another custom to mikveh every Erev Shabbos. Many men observe this. I also do this on occasions. I wouldn't be in this exact halakha, but I do mikveh every now and then Erev Shabbos. But this is now for someone that does it every single week. Erev Shabbos, he goes for the mikveh. Then you can also do this in the 9 days. And the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is adding people like me that on occasion do not go to the mikveh on Erev Shabbos, and then it is prohibited. So it's only for someone that's mamash doing it regularly. Then what happens if you are Avel, mourner, lo leinu, you lost a parent, chas v'shalom, God forbid, and you have finished your period of mourning? Then normally what mourners do is they shave and they cut their nails, because during the mourning period you don't do that. Now what happens if this falls in the 9 days? Or in the 3 weeks, like we said in the previous video, we do not cut our hair and we do not shave in the 3 weeks. So what do you do then? So the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is saying that if this period of mourning ends Erev Rosh Chodesh Av, the day before it will be Rosh Chodesh Av, then you can take a haircut. But from the Rosh Chodesh Av and onwards, so the 9 days, it is prohibited even for this mourner to cut the hair and trim the nails. There is a note, however, at the bottom that says if this is before the week in which Tisha B'Av falls, then you should speak with your local Orthodox rabbi. So it seems that there is some room for leniency if you are, God forbid, in this situation. Now, back to the Brit Milah, the circumcision. What happens if you have a circumcision in the 9 days? Torah tells you, on the 8th day you shall circumcise your son. And this happens to fall in the 9 days. Now, we already discussed the mitzvah feast at great length, and we also discussed all the people that participate in the Brit Milah. So many people have the custom to wear their best clothing, their Shabbos clothing. This is what I did, and I think this is practically what everyone does that is involved in the Brit Milah, meaning the father, the Moal, the Sandak, the Kvater. These people have all a role to play in the circumcision, the mitzvah, the commandment. So can you then wear these nice clothing? So the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is saying that you can, but is excluding the kvater. And what then about shaving for these people that's now present at this Brit Milah? So the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is ruling that you can shave, but only before Shabbos Chazon. Like we mentioned, the Shabbos that is just before Tisha B'Av. After that, if there were to be a Brit Milah, you cannot shave for that. And then the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch ends off with some laws about the Shabbos Chazon that is more applicable to someone that runs a synagogue, a Gabbai, for example. But basically talking about, the covering, should it be changed? The covering of the Torah, should it be changed? Who do you give the third aliyah to? And who should read maftir, which is the last section that we read from the Torah, because that person also does the Havdallah, and it's normally done in the tune of Eicha. But we will not go into detail about that in this video. The next video will be about the laws of Erev Tisha B'Av, which is considerably shorter, and then after that we will do a video on the laws of Tisha B'Av, which is lengthy. And for those of you that do want to get into the mood of the 9 days, which is a somber mood, then you can watch this video next, which is the recitation of Eicha by Rabbi David Lappin, together with the Hebrew and the English translation. Thanks for watching, and tzorot tovot.